If you know me, then you know that I love all things related to customization. And whilst not long ago, customizing an iPhone device was considered pretty much impossible, in more recent times, it's become something that is actually really doable. And whilst it's still certainly not as easy as it is on an Android device, part of me kind of loves the challenge of pushing iOS to its limits. And so when I recently switched back to using the iPhone 13 Pro for a short while, I wanted to go back to the drawing board and create an entirely new setup to see if I could push things even just that little bit further. And so that's exactly what I did. And now I've got a brand new layout, new icons, new wallpapers, new widgets as well. But then, you ready for the kicker? The entire setup will change automatically based on a schedule I've set up. That's right, my wallpaper, icons, and theme, they all change to a dark mode setup at night and then switch back to a light mode setup in the morning. Pretty dang cool, right? And so, of course, I just had to create a video detailing exactly how you can recreate this very setup on your own iPhone device. You ready for this? Let's do it. Okay, before we get going, the first thing we need to do is prep our home screens. For this particular setup, we'll need two different home screen pages. So we'll long press our home screen, tap the dots down here to bring up the home screen editor, and then uncheck all but two home screen pages. Then, just to make sure we're able to clear everything off these pages without the pages automatically deleting themselves, we're going to first make sure we have the Clear Spaces application installed on our phones. And once it is, we can then long press our home screen, tap the plus icon up the top here, and then scroll all the way down until we find the Clear Spaces widgets. We'll tap that, swipe over to the medium-sized widget, and then we'll tap on Add Widget. We'll then swipe over to our second home screen and repeat the process. Tap the plus button, scroll down to the Clear Space widgets, swipe over and select the medium-sized widget, and then tap on Add Widget. With that done, we can now clear every other element off the two pages, which you can do so by tapping each individual minus icon on all of your app icons, and then by tapping Remove from Home Screen. But I'm not going to show you that entire process, so through the magic of editing, poof, they're gone. Okay, with those two relatively blank pages set up, we'll now move on to the wallpaper situation. And as with the last iOS setup video, the wallpapers I'm using for this setup have also been designed to make the dock invisible, which I think instantly levels up how clean a home screen setup looks. Now, I've already made two different wallpaper packs that support hiding the dock, but just recently, I actually finished working on my brand new wallpaper pack called Brush. As you can see, the wallpapers in this pack have this artsy brushstroke design language about them, and the pack comes with 15 unique wallpapers in total, but then on top of the original designs, I've also created a version of each that will hide the dock on iOS. There are 7 wallpapers that'll work with the light mode activated, as well as 8 that'll work with the dark mode activated, and I really meticulously designed each of these backdrops to ensure that when setting them up, all you need to do is disable the perspective zoom option, and that's it. That's actually really important for achieving this dark mode, light mode auto switching functionality, which I'll explain later on. Oh, and if you're using the dark mode wallpapers, then you'll also need to disable this dark mode dims wallpaper setting, otherwise your dock won't look invisible. As always, this pack is available for purchase over on my website. They're all 5K in resolution, and I'm really proud of this entire wallpaper pack, so I hope you like them as much as I do. Now, if you're downloading this pack directly to your device, then you'll need to decompress the zip file using the Files application, then find and tap the wallpaper you want to use, which for this setup, I'm going to be using this one called Lemon, Lime and Bitters. So I'll tap on that. Then we need to select the share icon down here. And then finally, we need to tap on Save Image. But as mentioned, I'm also using a darker wallpaper for when the setup switches to the dark theme at night. And so I'm then going to find and tap on this other wallpaper called June, select the share icon, and again, tap on Save Image. With that done, we now need to open up the Photos application, and you should be on the albums page by default, but if you're not, make sure you are. And then from this page, we want to tap the plus icon up here, tap to create a new album, and then give this album the name Day. Then we want to tap on Albums, then Recent, and then select the light wallpaper we just saved, then hit Done. Now we're going to tap on Edit, then the plus icon again, tap to create another album, and this time we're going to call it Night. We'll again tap on Albums, then on Recent, select the dark wallpaper this time, and then again hit Done. With that out of the way, we now need to download a shortcut that will let us quickly switch between the two backdrops. Luckily, there is one for that exact purpose. It's called Light or Dark Wallpaper, and I've got it linked below. You just tap on that link in the description, then tap on Get Shortcut, then Add Shortcut, and it'll then show up under the My Shortcuts menu. If we open that up, you'll get an idea of how this works, whereby when toggled, the shortcut will first check whether the light mode is activated, and if so, it'll find an image from an album. Although by default, this is set to the Recents album, so we need to tap on that and change it to the album we just created called Day, which will mean when the light mode is activated and then this shortcut is toggled, it'll change it to that Day wallpaper. We then need to scroll down a bit and tap on where it says Recent here, but this time we're going to change it to that Night album we just created. So this means when the light mode is not activated and this shortcut is toggled, it'll instead set the wallpaper using the image from that album called Night. And just to show this in action, if I tap the shortcut, we first need to tap on Always Allow, but then when we come back home, you'll see that the wallpaper will now switch over to that lemon, lime and bitters backdrop I've just set up. That's obviously because the light mode is currently activated, but if I swipe into my control center and turn the dark mode on, then come back into the shortcuts app and run that shortcut again, this time when I come back home, our wallpaper will switch to that dark backdrop. In and of itself, it's actually a pretty handy bit of functionality, which you could definitely just leave as is, but the limitations, if you do, are that firstly, your icons cannot have a transparent background, as changing the wallpaper will ruin that illusion. But also secondly, to get this to run, you will always need to tap on that shortcut, even if you've got your system theme on a schedule. And so to address all of these issues and essentially change the entire setup automatically, we're actually going to use that shortcut within an automation and then place all of that within another shortcut. Before we even do that though, we've got to get our home screen set up. So firstly, the icons. Now, if you're going to be using the same icons regardless of whether the dark theme is activated or not, then this next process will be quite a bit simpler. But if you want to use different icons depending on the theme, or if you want to use transparent icons that do not have backgrounds, then like me, you'll actually need to set up two very similar, almost duplicate setups, but with one main difference. Now, in my last setup video, I was using icons from my very own pastel icon pack, which by the way, just recently got updated with 10 new app icons, but I've actually now created a brand new icon pack that I'll be using for this video called the monochromatic icon pack. The design of the icons are actually the same as my pastel icon pack. However, as the name suggests, this pack is exclusively filled with custom designed black and white variants of each. Now, whilst there are 50 unique app icons, each icon actually has 4 variants, including a white version with no background, a black version with no background, and then a white version with a dark background, and a black version with a light background. That way, if you don't want to go through the hassle of creating the transparent icons, which we're going to cover in a moment, you can just use either of the background variants, which will streamline the process even further. Oh, and just an FYI, the backgrounds of the icons will actually match the color of the dock as well, again, depending on the theme you have activated. So that's a fairly easy way to have transparent looking icons on the dock without going through the process of setting up transparent icons. But as I said, for this video, I'll be using the icons with transparent backgrounds because I love the unique look it provides. And so to do this, we need to use an application called, would you believe, Transparent App Icons. I actually covered how to set up your icons using this app in the previous iOS home screen setup video, so I'll link that up in the cards and down below. But as a very brief overview, we first need to long press our home screen, then swipe over to a blank page and take a screenshot. You'll actually want to do this with the dark wallpaper applied as well. So I'll go ahead and turn on the dark mode, then open the shortcuts app and run that light or dark wallpaper shortcut we just set up. Then come back home, long press my home screen, swipe over to a blank page, and again, take a screenshot. I'm just going to quickly switch the dark mode off again and also run that light or dark wallpaper shortcut again, but then I'm ready to open up the Transparent App Icons application. With it open, we'll tap to add a screenshot and select one of the 2 screenshots that we just captured. And for me, I'm going to start with the light wallpaper screenshot. With that done, all we need to do is select the spaces we want our app icons to appear in, then tap the Customize button, then navigate over to the Files application and find the first icon we're wanting to use, which for this example will be a black icon with no background. And I'm going to start with the email app, so I'll tap on that, then tap the share icon, and then tap on copy. Then back in the Transparent Icons app, we'll tap this little blue 3 dot icon here and select Paste Image. We'll click Done and that'll paste that icon onto that selected portion of the background image. So now we can tap this Save button. And then you need to repeat this process not only for all of the remaining app icons in your setup, but you also, of course, need to repeat it for the dark wallpaper setup as well. To reset the wallpaper, just tap this close button, then done, and then this refresh icon, and then tap to add the dark wallpaper screenshot. And then you can go about setting up your dark theme icons. I personally like to match the position of my dark icons with the light theme icons, which I think makes for a much more seamless transition between the two setups. And look, I know this is a pretty inconvenient process, but trust me, once you get into the swing of things, it actually doesn't take that long. But for my particular setup, which has 8 different app icons on the home screen, once I've completed the process, I will end up with 16 different app icons, 8 for the light wallpaper and 8 for the dark wallpaper. And with all of those icons set up, we can now jump into the Shortcuts application to start creating our custom shortcuts. I've now shown this process twice, so again, watch those previous 2 iOS setup videos to see how to do this in detail. But as a very quick overview, with the Shortcuts application open, we first want to tap the plus icon up here, then the Open App action. Then we want to select the word app, navigate to the first app we're wanting to set up, which for me will be Gmail. I'll select that, then rename the shortcut to Gmail, then I'll tap the little settings icon here, and then tap on Add to Home Screen. Now we need to tap the icon here, then choose Photo, then first select the exported Gmail icon with the light background, then tap on Choose. To remove the app label, I'll then tap the X here, and then finally I'll tap on Add. Oh, and a bonus tip to streamline this process just a little bit is to set up both the matching dark and light icons back to back. In other words, as soon as you've added a light icon, you should then straight away reopen the Shortcuts app, tap on Add to Home Screen again, then tap on the little icon here, then choose Photo, then select the other icon you haven't yet created, so in this case, the dark mode icon, select Choose, remove the app label, and then tap on Add. And so once you've completed the process for all 16 icons, we can then move on to configuring the actual layout of our home screens. So we'll start by long pressing our home screen and then long pressing one of our light background icons. And then whilst that's selected, we'll use our other hand to tap on all of the other light background icons. We can then drag those over to the first screen. So from here, we've already got that first clear space widget at the top, but because of the layout I'm opting for, we actually need 2 more small clear space widgets on the left side. So we'll tap the plus icon up here, scroll down until we get to the clear spaces widgets, tap on that, and then with the small widget showing by default, we can tap on Add Widget. I'll then move that medium-sized widget back to the top, but for the bottom left clear spaces widget, I actually really enjoy enabling some additional functionality here by incorporating it into what's called a Smart Stack widget. And this basically allows you to have multiple widgets within the one space. So we'll again tap the plus button and scroll down until we find the Smart Stack widget option. We'll tap that and then tap to add a small widget. We'll again make sure that's in the correct position, but then if we open that Smart Stack, you'll see that by default, it's actually filled with a bunch of random widgets. So we of course want to edit this to our own liking. I'll firstly disable widget suggestions and smart rotate, but then I'll go ahead and tap the plus button up here and start by scrolling all the way down to the clear spaces widget, tap it, and then tap add. Then we'll tap the plus button again. And from there, I'm gonna find and select any other additional widgets, but just for the time being, I'm just gonna quickly add a widget, then a shortcut widget, and then I'll add some others a little later on. And then we can go ahead and remove the other widgets we don't want. We'll cover setting up that widget in a moment, but first, let's now get all of our clear spaces widgets set up so they actually look invisible. So let's first tap on the top clear spaces widget, and then from there, we need to select the light mode option and select that light wallpaper screenshot that we previously took. If you're not sure which screenshot is correct, you can of course just take a new one to make sure. But for me, I'll then tap the dark mode option, and again, I'll select the dark mode screenshot. Just make sure that you don't select the actual wallpapers here, otherwise it won't work. We'll now tap on refresh all widgets and come back home. Now the top clear spaces widget is looking great, but the bottom ones aren't looking quite right. So to fix this, we'll again long press our home screen, then tap on the first small clear space widget, select the position here and change this to middle left. We'll tap to exit that, then tap the Smart Stack widget here and tap on the clear spaces widget. We'll then tap on position and select bottom left. We'll exit that and there we go. Those clear space widgets are all now looking beautifully invisible. Now all that's really left to do is to reposition our icons to ensure that they line up with the background. So I'll go ahead and do that. And if you can't remember the order of your icons, you really can just trial and error until the background lines up. And so that's pretty much the entire light home screen complete. However, there was one final element, which is of course that weather widget. As with the last iOS setup video, this one is also a weather widget I've set up using Widget, and because Widget lets us export and import widget files, I've also exported this one, and you can download that from my website for free. Once you've downloaded it, you can then open up Widget and navigate to the Create page, and then you want to tap on Import Widget. Select Import from Files, navigate to the Widget file you've just downloaded, and that should import it automatically. Then we can tap the back button. Then we'll come back to our home screen, tap to open the widget, select the recently imported widget, and then we need to set our transparent background. So similar to the Clear Spaces application, we'll need to then tap on each of the images here and select the light and dark wallpaper screenshots that we captured earlier. Then we'll tap the tick button, wait for the app to generate our background, and then the last thing we need to do is select the position of our widget, which for this setup is the bottom left. We'll then tap the tick icon and then tap on yes, and that's it. Just an FYI, I've got this widget set up to launch into the Carrot Weather application whenever you tap on it, because for some reason, the default weather app doesn't show up as an option within Widget. So if you also want the extra functionality yourself, then you can either install that application as well, or dive into the settings and change it to a different app, or even disable it altogether. And that's it. Well, at least for our light home screen. Now we actually need to go ahead and set up the widgets for our dark home screen as well. To keep things a little briefer for this video, I'm just going to long press my home screen, tap the plus icon, and then scroll down and add a small Clear Spaces widget. Then I'll again tap the plus button and just add a small widget. I'll again reposition the widgets so that they're in the correct position, and I'll also tap the Clear Spaces widget and change the position to middle left again. Then all I need to do is reorder my icons. Now I'm just referencing the light home screen to match the position of my icons, but you could of course also manually switch the wallpaper in case you wanted to make sure everything was lined up. Okay, so there's our roughly finished dark home screen. And now that it's completed, we actually then need to long press our home screen again, tap the dots down here and disable it. You might be wondering why on earth we're disabling a home screen that we just created, but that's because of a unique setting found within Apple's relatively new focus mode functionality, which actually allows us to disable or enable certain home pages depending on what focus mode is active. Then we can use that focus mode as the base of an automation to essentially hack the system so that whenever that focus mode is on, it'll not only switch the home page, but it'll also change the theme to light or dark, and then also change the wallpaper as well, all automatically. Now, I was going to include the exact breakdown of how to achieve all of this automation functionality in this video, but as you can see, this one is already way too long, and keeping it in would have made this video well over 30 minutes. So instead, I'm going to put it in its own dedicated video, which will be live on the channel in the next week or so, or if you're watching sometime in the future, then I'll of course link it up in the cards and down in the description below. But just to give you a very brief overview though, I've first created a new focus mode within the focus settings called dark mode, and then I've chosen that dark home page to be the only one that shows up when it's activated. Then back in the Shortcuts app, I've created two separate automations that will turn on either the dark mode or the light mode, depending on whether that focus mode I just set up is activated or not. And then once it changes the theme, it'll then run that light or dark wallpaper shortcut we installed previously. That'll sort things out automatically, but just to give me even more control, I've also then created a new shortcut that I've called Change Theme, which will essentially check whether the dark mode is on, and if so, turn the focus mode off, or if it's off, it'll turn the focus mode on, both of which will then trigger that automation as well. So that means I have both an automatically changing setup based on that focus mode schedule, but I also have a toggle so that I can manually make the switch whenever necessary. As you can see, it's pretty dang complicated stuff, so I'm sure you can understand why we're better having a self-contained video for just that aspect alone. Oh yeah, and that shortcut widget that I set up in this widget stack, that is for the change theme shortcut that I just set up, which means it's available for me to just manually toggle within a single swipe. But with that fully set up, the cool part about this whole process is that whenever that dark focus mode is off, you'll just see this one light home screen here and nothing else. But then when that dark focus mode becomes activated, which I will do so via that change theme shortcut, then it'll only show our dark mode page. And again, nothing else. And I reckon this is pretty dang cool. Now, one other thing to note is that by default, anytime these automations run, or even when you tap on your custom icons, you'll get a little notification banner at the top of your screen. But as you can see for my setup, I have no such banners. You can set this up as well using some additional settings found under the screen time menu, as well as some additional automations. But I've covered this at length in a separate video. So instead of explaining it here again, I'll just link to it up in the cards and down below. Oh, and for those wondering why I've got a clear spaces widget in that bottom left widget stack, that's purely because sometimes I like having an even cleaner setup without that weather widget visible. And so all I need to do is swipe and there we go. But for the most part, I do actually leave that weather widget visible. But with that done, our brand new auto switching home screen setup is now complete. And so there it is. And even though it was a super involved process, like I said, I actually kind of found the process fun. And even more than that, I'm really happy with the end result. That was the one drawback from my previous iOS setup, was that once everything was set up, I was forced to keep my phone set to a specific theme with a specific wallpaper unless I wanted to go through the process all over again. But now I've got both a light setup and a dark setup that'll switch automatically or even manually, and I love it. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to drop a comment down below and I'll do my best to hit you up with a response. And as I said, links to everything mentioned throughout the video can be found down in the description below. But that's it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you later.